back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is the world premiere.
Great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. That's right. Welcome to the number one talk show, The Culture Call, with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM 790 WTSK. This is the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. And of course, for the next 2 hours, that's right, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be here talking a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics, and definitely from religion to relationships. And as always, we are here to create a safe space. That's right, a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and yes, y'all, yes, I can't get around it, sometimes controversial conversations. Yeah, and guess what? You can learn and call in and chat it up with us right here as we learn together on the Culture Call. Listen, shout out time. Y'all know how I like to start off the show. Shout out to, number one, all of our first-time listeners to the CC family. Welcome. I'm grateful to have you on listening with us today, and I promise you this will be a time of empowerment, a time of information, definitely a time where we're able to have a discussion and a dialogue about some of the interesting things that are going on in this world. And beloved, there are so many interesting things that are happening and taking place right now. So listen, whether you're traveling through the city on vacation at your cubicle, if this is your first time listening to the Culture Call, welcome. Number two, shout out number two, absolutely, to all of you who are my faithful, committed listeners. I'm telling you, you are the bread on my butter. Definitely. And I am so grateful to all of you who have been sticking with me over this 1 year, past a year now. Yeah, going into year two. And I'm telling you, you have pushed us all the way to the top. And I love the way that you embrace me when you see me. Yeah, tell me, hey, I always listen to you when I can. Hey, you've been talking about some great things, X, Y, Z, and giving me all kind of topics that I need to talk about. I am so grateful to you. You mean the world to me. You are why we are the number one talk show in our market. And I cannot say how appreciative how I am of all that you do always for us. Tell everybody to listen to the Culture Call. And then last but not least, shout out number three, Brother Jay. I'm telling you, he is the man with the plan, always encouraging, always insightful, giving me wisdom every day. You heard him tell me to keep that baton. I'm going to keep running with this baton to see what the end is going to be. We're going to have a great show on today. I am so very happy to be under his tutelage, and I'm telling you, and to be a staff member here at 790 WTSK Praise 93.3 FM. So grateful. Listen. Do me a favor. I need you to go to your smart device. If you haven't done so already, go ahead to your Apple or your Android device. That's your phone, your iPad, whatever whatever you have that's digital around you, and go ahead and go to your app store and download the Praise 93.3 app. That's right. Go ahead and download it. And guess what? You can hear us from all around the world, definitely all around the country. All of the amazing programming and all of the things, not just the Culture Call, but Brother Jay in the morning, Minister Chris in the afternoons. Listen, Darlene at night, you will not miss anything. And then we give you all the news, the weather, the happenings that's going on in our city. I'm telling you, you've got to download that app. Yes, right. That's right. So no matter if you're in Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, whether you're in Little Rock, Arkansas, or right here in the beautiful city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Montgomery, Birmingham, Mobile, Huntsville, Gordo, Reform, Aliceville, Utah, Boulder G. Doesn't matter where you are. When you have the app, you can listen to us wherever you are, okay? Listen, do me a favor. Go ahead and send me your public service announcements and events to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. And give me an opportunity to let Lottie Dottie and everybody know the amazing thing that you're doing at your church, your organizations, your fraternities, your sororities. Whether you're an artist getting ready to have a concert or a preacher getting ready to have a revival, does not matter. We want to let everybody know and put some faces in the place so that you can know that you are supported and valued part of our community. You know why? Because we do it better always when we do it together. And as always, listen, you can write down this number, 205-752-4800, 205-752-4800, and you can call in to be a part of the show, and definitely you can utilize our app. There's a chat feature on there, and you can send me messages during the show that come straight to my phone, and I read them while I am on the air. That's right. Do me a favor, if you have not done so already, follow me on Facebook. That's right. Follow me on Facebook, The Culture Call. Press that like button and be a part of the Culture Call community on social media. You will be glad that you did. Maybe you missed a previous interview or previous episode of the Culture Call. Do me a favor, go ahead to Apple Podcasts, type in Culture Call, leave the article "The" off, and there you're going to find my face with all of the catalog of the amazing shows that we have done in the past, if you missed them. Yeah. And so listen, I need you to do me a favor. Sit back and relax. Grab you some coffee. You know how we do it. Maxwell House to Starbucks. Yeah. And maybe you're not a coffee drinker. Too much caffeine. I got you. Get you some herbal tea, chamomile if you're trying to calm down. Hey, y'all, I found out a new tea is called Kava, Kava. That's really a soother. Listen, that's a good tea as well. Or you can get some green tea. They have all kind of fruit infused flavors. There you go. That you can get in green tea to give you a little caffeine kick so you can make it to lunch. Yeah. Or maybe coffee or tea is not your thing. Well, hey, get you some water. I got mine right here. Today, Essentia is my favorite, but I don't have that today. Smart water is my favorite. Yeah. Get you some alkaline water or some spring water. Get hydrated. Don't dehydrate. Get hydrated. And let's get into the culture. Listen, y'all. So much has been going on. You know, I was thinking about over the weekend, should I just do a part in a segment in the show called I Bet You Didn't Know, right? But, you know, because I know we're going to see how that develops. I'm going to see how I can do that. You know, every day I'll do a I Bet You Didn't Know thing that's going on in the world. You know why? Because there is so much going on in the world. Y'all, I'm telling you, this election, these politics, running rampant. And that's just a part of the world. We're looking at, you know, wars, rumors of wars. You know, it's almost like a biblical text, right? Yet the end is not near. So, hey, because we got work to do. We have work to do, definitely. As people of faith, as those who bear the image of God, we have so much work to do in the earth. And so many times we say he's soon to come. He is soon to come on his calendar. But soon is not soon enough on our calendar, but his delay is our development and the grace and mercy that he has on us, Christ that he has on us so that we can get ourselves together because we got a lot of stuff to do, y'all. We got a lot of stuff to do, right? And so I was just looking, you know, and trying to figure out where do I want to jump off in this morning. And I want to talk about what's the plan. And I'll tell you, I'm gonna try to break that down just a little bit more for you. What's the plan? You know, last night on social media, on Twitter, to be exact, they call it X now, but we're going back to calling it Twitter for our own purposes. The former President Trump, and Elon Musk, the owner of X, you know, had difficulty having an interview on Spaces, Twitter Spaces, those of you who are familiar with that, and most of you probably are not, but there's a place on the app where they can have live interviews, you know, audio, not visual, audio interviews, and you can listen. And they finally got on, and when I tell you the ramble and the disconnections, you know, but one of the things I did hear, one of the things that I did notice, you know, because a lot of people were boycotting, you know, the app. Why? Because Elon Musk would give Trump some time, but he would not afford Vice President Harris the same time. So we already know whose corner he's using Twitter as a mechanism of the campaign for, the side that he wants to win. Hey, I'm not fussing at the man. I'm sure there's some campaign violations going on because he got caught, doing fake voter registration drives online, and your voter registration never actually gets to the Board of Elections and all that. They never register you to vote. And so they want you to register through his thing. And then, he's already being investigated by that because that was a sham, and I guess the birds of a feather, right? You know the saying. But one of the things that they were talking about that's so disconnected is this whole idea of an alternate reality that they live in, right? That it is so cruel to people, cruel to women, cruel to children, cruel to teachers because they're talking about, disassembling and demolishing the Board of Education, the Department of Education, and all those things and send it back to the states. Well, you know how that's going to turn out for us, right? So, right. And those states that, the South by and large are in the lower tiers of education and health, right? And finances, right? We receive the most benefits, pay the least taxes. And I'm talking about the South now. That's what we do. And now you want to take out any kind of regulation or the Department of Education that makes sure there is at least a national benchmark and standard where all of our students are taught. And, Brother Jay and I was just talking about, getting this whole idea of, understanding what's really going on. There's a way that they're trying to really dumb down. I can't say any better. They're trying to dumb down the populace so that we will be a misinformed and least educated people, right? And not the present generation, but the future generations. They don't want them as smart because, by and large, those who are intellectuals, who are scholastic, those who are college educated, educated to the degree where, you really still believe in facts that it's facts over ideology, truth over ideology, how I feel about it, facts over opinion, right? They want the masses to be uneducated, to go by conspiracy theories and whatever they say. And I am greatly concerned about that because we have no plan. And this whole episode is, what's the plan? We have no plan. And you do understand that, that when America catches a cold, black and brown folks catch pneumonia and the flu, right? Because it is what it is, just how it is in this country. And, part of our communities, we've got to start thinking about, these kind of dystopian, disconnected, destructive ideas of rich white folks. And not just white folks, because there's black folks that support them too, because they got money. It's only a money thing, right? And I'm not casting aspersions about anybody having money at all because the scripture says that money answers all things. And I'm not upset by people who are rich, who invest in things to help promote certain things that are productive for society and the human community at large. But I am talking about these people who want to control society, control minds, control bodies, to be oligarchs, to be those who utilize their money to change truthful outcomes in their favor, right? And there has been none like that, like, the former president, that he believed because he is, or he, marketed himself as rich. Notice what I said. I didn't say he was rich. I said because he has marketed himself as rich. And, he did start off, most of us did not start off with parents that left us already $400 million as an inheritance. Now, when you read about how he got that money, and the family infighting to disallow any other people to get, any of the money and the inheritance of others, of the family, his whole idea, from what we understand, has been that subtle, crafted, devious kind of individual, narcissistic, gaslighting, subtly racist. See, you can have black people in your arena and still be racist. People are like, well, I got black friends. It doesn't mean that you're not racist. It doesn't mean that you don't believe in white supremacy. No, that's not what it means. It just means that you found usefulness for those who are around you. Okay, let's try that again. You found a level of what? Usefulness for them. And, when you found that usefulness of black and brown people, you find people to defend you because they believe that there's nothing, oh, no, he came to this, oh, he gave me this, oh, he gave me that. But that is to borrow, or that is to proffer and to buy, let me say that, and to have an issue of bribery to make you do what they want you to do on their side, especially if you are ever needed, right? And so, there's a whole lot of people that support that. A whole lot of Tim Scott senator from South Carolina, Byron Donald from Florida, the representative from Florida. It's a lot of people who just cannot wake up to the truth and the fact that you are or have been useful idiots to be able to move forward someone else's agenda that if they had their choice, they wouldn't have to use you. If they had their choice. It was hilarious to think that for Tim Scott or Byron Donald to think that they would ever be the former president's vice presidential candidate, right? That he would rather pick this guy that he has now, J.D. Vance, who of course is not his name, who has been a disastrous political choice for him because, he came out of the gate being disastrous, right? But they would sell out their entire souls. And I'm talking about Scott and Donald as black men to really get some kind of white supremacy or not supremacy, but proximity to the agency or the institution of whiteness. Now, see, when I talk like this, some folks get upset. Let me tell you why they get upset. Because they can't hear whiteness and not think white people. When you understand whiteness is so much bigger than color, it's an institution. It's a behemoth. It is an ideology. It is for a Pauline biblical term, a principality. It is a power that it is a mindset. It must be, as he said in 2 Corinthians chapter number 10, it must be pulled down. That stronghold must be pulled down because it is casted imaginations in the minds of men to think that they are literally given a divine instance to be better than other people, right? And so, because of that, because you look at them, you're like, yo, you got to be lost. You must have drank the tea. I don't know what's going on with you. But they have figured out that for their lives, being black in any sort of way is deleterious to who they believe to what they believe they want to accomplish in life. I get it. I get it so far as whiteness is concerned because that's what whiteness has always done. But as a person, as a human, as those who grew up in that experience, I never, I've got a young man, a son of mine who he is, he grew up around white people. He was always telling me, Pops, this ain't the white folks that I grew up around. So I never grew up around hating them and blah, 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 blah. I said, man, you ought to be fortunate. You ought to be fortunate growing up in Alabama and you've never confronted, or lived in a great community of that kind of supremacy and animus. All of that, man, you are blessed and highly favored of the Lord. So not everybody has the same experience. That's why you got to have an understanding that whiteness is bigger than white people. Because there are a tremendous amount of Caucasian white people that support Vice President Harris for the presidency. Tremendous amount, right? A tremendous amount, right? So it's not about race. It's about who is best for the forward motion of our country, right? And to be honest with you all, I want to go ahead and say this, and I'm going to get back to what the plan is because I want to talk to community for just a minute. But the only way that we move beyond this moment that we've been experiencing for a while, from at least 2015 to today's number. The only way to get rid of this is that you've got to vote and make sure that you vote in terms of who's going to protect democracy. You got to make sure that you vote and see who's going to protect education, who's going to protect women's rights, who's going to protect immigration, who's going to actually do something about it, who's going to protect voting rights, who's going to protect the economy of the middle class and the poor people, who are going to not demonize homeless people and people who are disabled and find themselves indigent, but those who will stand up for them. Yeah, you gotta begin. You cannot. And I know in the state of Alabama, our vote, especially if you vote blue, right? If that's your vote, it's mainly symbolic, because unfortunately we cast states and label states as red states and blue states, right? Because we don't expect any better, right? But there's a tremendous shift and a tremendous wave that's happening, that everybody is seeing a thing and calling a thing, right? What is amazing to me is poor people defending the ultra rich, when you find out that the ultra rich have been taking advantage of poor people, and poor people, since he's been born, people's been picking on him. Are you serious? But I'm like, did you bump your head? And I'm talking about bump your head really hard, right? But right. And so there are poor people who are defending based upon some, I don't know, Christian ideology, I guess is religion or nationalism, or just plain flat out racism, that you're supporting a guy that wouldn't even spit on you if you were on fire. That would not, listen, would not even spit. You didn't even call the individual's wife that died for you, right? Died not for you, but at your rally outside in Butler, Pennsylvania. You didn't even call her. Right? But you took that death and branded her husband, who was a fireman, spelled his name wrong, didn't even invite her, right? And she's in a conundrum, because she's like, to honor my husband, because he was a staunch, Trump fan. I'm going to be, that's what so I can't really, take the call that the current president or vice president made. I'm not going to even take that call. I acknowledge that they called and to bid me their condolences. But the one that my husband, she was in a conundrum. I was like, no, this is the kind of person that poor people, white folks, black folks, Hispanic, that's the kind of person that you're trying to tell us God sent. Yeah. My thing is, these people have a plan. What I want to challenge us today in our community is, what is our plan? Because we're not at a community unless we control our economics. A community, we're not a community if we don't control our education. And we're not a community if we don't control our empowerment. I'm going to say that again. We are just people who are living in a neighborhood, who live by each other. But we are not a community unless we control our education. Yes. And unless we control our economics, and unless we control, unless we are in control of this whole idea of our own empowerment. How do we do that? What is our plan? Let's say, for instance, that the former president does win, and we see all of the things that, Project 2025 says he's going to do. Let's say all those things literally. What is our plan as a community, as a black community? Bar whether you're saved or not, believer, unbeliever, churched or, whatever, sacred or secular, however you want to class that. What is our plan? What is our plan to educate our children? What is our plan to fortify our economy, to create businesses and formulate our dollars? Because this is, those who, don't know history are destined to repeat it. Yeah. And those who do know history, knowing that those who don't know history are destined to repeat it, they're going to try to make sure you don't know history so that they can do it again to you. So this has already happened to our community. Yeah. Our education, our economics, and our empowerment. What are we doing? What is our plan? Right? You know, because, you know, we're going to go back to the time when America was great again in their eyes. And I am afraid. I am concerned that we as the black community don't have a plan. So we got to start talking about, you know, something very serious about our economy, our finances, our creation of businesses that can sustain our community. We have to start thinking about, yes, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, right now, we got to start thinking about how we can embrace, the Black Wall Street concept. We got to begin to understand how we can have that again. You know, modernity has afforded you and I luxuries to venture outside of our community, to get services, right? To spend money, right? To eat, to have restaurants and go to doctors and all those different kinds of things, right? That's what modernity has done. We've come a long way, but there was a time, and I know that some of you know that time that I'm listening, that are listening to me now, know about that. When you could only go to the grocery store in your community, you could only go to the dentist and the doctor in your community. You could only, because we went to school. We went to Fisk, we went to Meharry, we went to Morehouse, we went to Spelman, we went to predominantly black schools. They called them colored at the time. And we came and we got our degrees, we got our education, and we came back to serve our communities. Right? And that wasn't just teachers and doctors and lawyers, but I'm talking about welders and, you know, those who were working in various levels of trades, electricians, plumbers, etc. We've got to start thinking about if we're going to remain in this country, and most of us will remain because, you know, again, and I'm only talking about, you know, if you know what, scratch that. If both sides win, if either side wins, Democrat or Republican, donkey or elephant wins, we still need a plan. Because on the economic scale, we are the last. We are at the bottom of the totem pole. Right? And again, I'm telling you, modernity and a current culture, contemporary time, have afforded us to make more money so that we can live in better in different neighborhoods, and we can live in behind gated communities. Right? But the truth of the matter is that when you look at it from an economic perspective, that in our neighborhoods, our communities don't circulate their finances. And you have to ask that question, why? Well, number one, that there have to be quality businesses. There's got to be businesses, there's got to be grocery stores, there's got to be doctors that literally set up in our communities. And then we have to learn how to take care of our community. Yeah. We have to make sure that when they set up these businesses, that we don't allow the context of our neighborhoods to become violent and destructive, whereby our doctors can't stay there, our lawyers can't stay there, right? There's a whole lot that our teachers, we have to deal with that. You know, we have to start promoting a teacher salary increases. See, all of that happens because our children deserve quality teachers, and come closer, and our teachers deserve quality students. I want to say that again. As a former school teacher, that our school systems deserve quality students. Not only that, then we have to talk about, once we talk about economy, education, empowerment, what is our political structure? Who are we sending to city councils? Who are the people? Do we have people in our community that we can trust, that when we elect them for our particular districts, our particular neighborhoods, that they're going to go and do exactly on behalf of the people that sent them there? Or they're going to be too happy to be in the room, right? So we need to have a lot of conversation. What is our plan? That's what our show is about today, and I need you to keep it right here on Praise 93.3 FM, The Culture Call, with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. And listen, I need you to go ahead and get you some coffee and tea. We'll be right back.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back, beloved, right here on The Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3 FM. You know the number, 790 WTSK. And we're talking about what's the plan? Yes. What is our plan for our community? In spite of or despite what may go on in this election. First of all of us need to vote. All of us need to vote, right? And people are like, this generation, I can vote if I don't want to vote. Yeah, I die. People didn't just die for our right to vote. They also died for our right not to vote. And what if we don't like the candidates? I'm like, you know what? And I tell them, I was like, first of all, you are so privileged to live in a time where you can weigh, the lesser of two evils. First of all, we've never weighed as black people the lesser of two evils, right? We understand that the system is evil. We know that. That's why we rely heavily on our faith in God to see us through. That's where all of that comes from. But yeah, there's a generation now, and parents, especially if your children are going to turn 18, get them registered to vote because yes, and place that responsibility, that obligations, on them. But this person's doing this. They're not giving me this and they ain't going to do this. First of all, that's never what elections are about. Not in the country, not in this country. What you're wanting is a dictatorship, but you want a dictatorship for your side. Did y'all hear what I just said, Coach Carl? That's what most people want. If they tell the truth, they want a dictator, but they only want a dictator who's going to do on their side. What has this person done for black people? Well, first of all, I get that understanding, but black people are more than just where you live in your cubbyhole, right? And so, tax cuts, improvement in health care, all these different kinds of American, the ACA, right? All of those things, they call it Obamacare, but the ACA has provided so much insurance to us, for people who look like you and I, who can't even afford it. And then you got these people, and there's a whole lot of things going on right now where black folks are policing blackness. Ain't that dumb? There's a whole situation created around the reparations argument, around the reparations, conversation, African descendants of, of the diaspora, right? This whole idea that, this, American descendants of slavery, right? So if you're black in America, but you're not from, your parents were not enslaved in this country, then the notion of those group of people is that you don't deserve or you shouldn't get reparations, right? So there's a whole fracture in the black community right now that, that's the conversation coming from, oh, she's not black. She got a black daddy. What are you talking about? She grew up in Canada. She grew up in Oakland. What are you talking about? Right? It is always they want the uneducated because the uneducated are more likely to believe conspiracy theories and go down, spend all night long on YouTube looking at stuff that people just put up because YouTube, they figured out if I get high numbers, I can get money. You're being a useful idiot. That's what, somebody had to tell you why it might as well be me. Yeah, that's the facts. And so, this whole policing on blackness, back in the day, when my mom and dad, they had the paper bag test. Colorism has always existed, since we've come to this country because colorism, let's start with that. There was only colorisms. Why? Because the slave owner, who was white, was sleeping with the female, the woman slave who was black, and created these biracial light-skinned children. I mean, facts are facts, right? It is what it is, right? And so, he put some cream in the coffee. It is what it is, right? And so, but by American terms at that time, that person, that baby was black. They were not given any of the privileges of the institution. No. We were fighting for humanity, right? 3/5 of a human, right? We were fighting for full humanity, 5/5, right? Right? And here you are, or you too light, you too dark. That is an aspersion within our community that we really need to get rid of. because, I understand. And watch this. And they start to divide because in that colorism whole idea, right, it was who could be in the house and who had to be in the fields. Most of the darker people were in the fields. Most of the lighter people were in the house. And that was, quote unquote, the reward for that black child, right, that to get them as close to whiteness, to be a servant in the house, right? And so when you ride around Alabama and in the South and you see all these antebellum houses, look at the back, look in the backyard. There's a little house back there. That's where the slave quarters were, right? They only worked in the house, but they lived in the slave quarters, which had some distance from the house, right? But that was their, award for the light-skinned children, right? And so we have this whole idea in our community that light-skinned people get treated better than dark-skinned people. But the bottom line is all of the black. All of us are black. All of us have been in some level of enslavement, especially if you're coming from the West Indies and the Caribbean islands, because that's where they landed first. That's where you got your Jamaicas, your Haitis, your Mexicos, all of that. When you look at a map, if you do a history, all of those. That's how black people got to Aruba, Antigua, Turks and Caicos, Trinidad and Tobago. That's where all those black folks come from, Africa. Right. All of us are a part of the slave trade. They just stopped in different islands. And then they finally got to Charleston, South Carolina, and in Tybee Island in Georgia, where they used to keep the slaves to check out to make sure they didn't have diseases before they added them to the population. Because, again, slaves was an economy. It was money. It wasn't people. So it's kind of like if you got a bad chicken and the chicken got a disease, you sequester that chicken because that chicken is going to affect that one chicken is going to affect the rest of the chicken coop, and you could potentially, all your chickens could die and you could lose money. That's the bottom line. It's not any kind of personal affinity or humanness that you're adding to that. No, that's not definitely what it was. No, absolutely not. And then you had Jamestown, Virginia, and all those different, and then they started spreading up north, up in New York, Maryland. There was slavery all up the East Coast. It migrated out to the West. Right. It migrated out to the West in terms of slavery, but these people talking about, so when you look at another black person, you don't have, she's not even black. What are you talking about? Like if there's any color that she could have picked to run for president, come on. That if there's any color she could choose, I think I'm going to run as a black woman. Wait a minute. I'm like James Brown. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. I get it. I promise you I get it. But if I had to make a political calculation in this country of what color I was going to run with, or what race, quote unquote, social construct that I'm going to run in, it would not be black if I had a choice. No. We don't make up that much of the electorate, right? We swing the electorate, but we don't make up the predominance of the electorate. Come on. What are you talking about? And so, there are people who are stuck with their own ideology and opinion. I was looking at a news broadcast, and Ted Koppel, who was famous for ABC, was talking to, my goodness, what is the guy from Fox News? Anyway, he was saying, this guy was like, what you've done successfully is you've learned how to make people believe. Watch this, y'all. This was so good to me. It was juicy, juicy, juicy. This man said, you have done so well on Fox, this Fox News network. You've made people believe that ideology and opinion are more valuable than facts and truth. Let that simmer for a minute. Did you hear what Ted Koppel told that man? Right? He said, what you do so well. You're such a great news entertainer. Because Ted Koppel was a news reporter. That he was prior to this news commentator, news entertainment, right? He said what you have been so proficient at doing is, watch this, y'all, creating this whole idea that my opinion and my ideology is stronger than facts and truth. Why? So that there can be no facts and truth, that can all be subjective and not objective, abstract and not concrete. And that's how we even function in our community. It's my truth. No, it ain't. No, it's the truth. It's just your opinion. It might be your experience. Doesn't necessarily you experience the thing the right way. The way that is supposed to be experienced. Well, who's to say? Who's to say? And that's the question. It's the serpentine situation all over again from Genesis chapter 1. Yeah. Did God say? It's always to make you feel that there's another perspective that holds equal to truth. Right? To that your opinion and the way that you see it and the way that you believe is the thing that is right. No, there is a truth. And that truth is sanitized. That truth is sanctified. That truth stands alone. And most men and women, black, white, and otherwise, Hispanic, all those, they don't want to deal with concrete truth. That's why I said, even before the break, when we get ready to deal with truth, number one, we got to understand, black folks, we don't have a community yet. Dr. Claude Alexander was talking about that. We don't have a community yet. We have a neighborhood. But we don't have a community. We don't have a community if we don't have control over our economics, if we don't have control over our education, and if we don't have control over our empowerment. And when I mean empowerment, I'm talking about politics. People who we send to the city governments, community governments, who take control, who we send there, and they get exposed to all these opportunities and fundings and all that, but it never trickles down back to the community. Right. They get so excited about being, in the big house that they forget that they left people out in the field. And the reason why we elected you from the field to go to the big house is so that you could be a bridge. That you can get most of us, if we desire, out of the field. Right? And so, but because we're living in this society, this society that does not believe truth and facts anymore, to call a thing, right? I love the text in the scripture where when the individual will call a thing that the prophet or would ask them, what do you see? And I see this. He says, no. Or what do you see? I don't see anything. Go back again. Look again. Or I see men as trees, right? It's always, what do you see? Just because you see it a certain way doesn't mean it is a certain way. Right? That we've got to break this whole idea of subjectivity and my own opinion, my own truth, my own facts, my own feelings, my own ideology. We got to break that so that we can really build a community. Because building a community ain't just how you see it. It's what's best for us. And all of us have a little bit of give and take in that. Right? Exactly. Yes, I believe that children ought to have agency. I believe that they ought to have worth. I believe that they ought to have, their ways. Every child comes in their own ways of thinking. But when we are dealing with a community effort, unless we are dealing with a school like the Capital School, a multi-intelligence school that kind of forms and shapes you in the direction of the way that the child should learn. No, basic public education, here is the standard: reading, writing, and arithmetic. We don't have time for you to be put on a talent show when we're doing math, right? And you don't need to be coming up to the school fussing at the teacher. Well, my baby loved to sing. My baby trying to be an actor. Okay, good. But she also needs to know what 2 + 2 is. She also needs to know how to deal with this fraction. He also needs to learn how to read and not use his finger. He also needs to know how to pronounce words. He also needs to know proper subject-verb agreement. Though that's the standard. That's the facts. That's the truth. Else he's not going to graduate. You don't need to be coming up there fussing and mad at the teacher because your child is not doing X, Y, Z. No, it begins at home. And if you're helping your child at home, well, Bishop, I hear what you're saying, but most of us got to work. But then if that is the case, and that is the premise and the context from which you live, then your responsibility is to get the child help tutoring, to meet with that child's teacher and say, you know what, I would do, but I'm at work when they get home. So is there any programs that you all have that I can put my child in? Because I don't want the fact that I've got to work to cause my child to be hanging behind. And then instead of going up to the school and fussing, my baby, he need a participation trophy. No, he don't need a participation trophy if it's 2 + 2 and he put 6. No, he don't need that. We are not dealing with imaginary numbers. No, 2 + 2 is 4, right? Don't defend your perspective and your opinion because you believe your child is the greatest thing since Jesus Christ that ever walked the earth. Yeah, all of us think that to our own children. But when we send our children to this whole education system, then guess what? We've got to be a support, not just for the children, but also for the educator, also for the teacher, especially in our community schools. Yeah, in our community, the schools that really deal with the students, the children from our community, we have to make sure that they are strong and that they have the resources that they need for each and every child to be successful. But you can't do that if the teacher is not successful, if the teacher is not capable and the teacher is not well skilled, if the teacher is just somebody that's coming out of college trying to get their student loans paid off and they're teaching there for a couple of years, but there is no consistency and there's no drive and there is no determination to build up all the children in our community, then we need to be vocal and tell whoever is hiring, don't hire that teacher. They're not committed to making sure that our children are doing their best. It's not how you feel about it. It is what it is. And we've got to start beginning to be vocal components of that support system to build our schools. We can't come in and deal with every situation from our own perspective. But Charlie, Shatira, she don't do that when she at home. Oh, of course not. But she come to school and cut the food. I know little Junebug, he's just a good old child when he come in your house. Yeah, but when he goes to school, he is raising Hades and causing other students not to be able to learn. You got to deal with the reality. You got to deal and call a thing a thing. We got to have a plan, y'all. And part of that plan is us to understand what we are dealing with. I used to say it's because the parents are getting younger. No, that's not it, because the parents back in the day were younger. They were young as well. Absolutely. No, there can never be strength and foundation without discipline and order. And part of our formulation of different systems in our community, you remember I told you 3, education, economics, and empowerment. We've got to have discipline. We've got to have order. We've got to have a standard, and we can't back away from that. That's got to be a key component to our plan. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Our children are not going anywhere if they don't have a level of discipline and order. Children need it. They need discipline and order. Listen, this is your boy, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call. Praise 93.3 FM 790 WTSK. Keep it right here. There's so much more to come. Get you a snack, a nap, or something, and tune in.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back. Yes, right here on the Culture Call. It's the top of the hour, 11 a.m. and some change. Yeah, with your boy, L. Spencer Smith, right here talking about everything. And I hope and pray that this morning you're getting some energy, some education, some empowerment, because that's what we are here definitely to do. Maybe you're just joining us for our second hour. Welcome one, welcome all. Yeah, I am grateful to have you following and listening to us on this morning as we talk about the plan. What's our plan for the Black community? You know, we are in a tremendous season of decision-making and choices. And I would be remiss if I did not at least at some given way or point tell you that we've got to start thinking about what's next. What's the plan? You know, if the Lord continues to place life and body, continues to give us the grace and mercy to live another day, each and every one of us ought to have a plan of how we're going to do better, how we're going to go forward. And since no man is an island, right? No man stands alone. Then there is relationship and fellowship and community that has been ordained by God, that you need to understand that proximity to people, that is a key to your future and your destiny, your purpose, and to who you are, right? From the very first moment in the book of Genesis where we read, that it is not good for man to be alone, right? That's not just a marriage text, and I get it. Because sometimes we read the text in a silo and we think that it can only mean one thing. But no, the living word causes us to breathe. When God says it's not good for man to be alone, is that it was the formulation of a community of animals, and that single solitary man was looking, that he had no intimacy, he had no connection, no fellowship. He only had dominion. He only had control. That whatever he called an animal, that's what it was named, right? But then God says, this is not a good thing that he's all one. He's all in himself. So he put the man to sleep. He pulled out of the man a beautiful creation called woman, and the two become one, right? There's a unity, a unification sense there that you've got to see. Again, he's not talking about, intimacy or lovemaking or all that kind of stuff. And I get it that in one degree, in one realm of interpretation, it does mean that. Right. But also from a meta narrative, it is that these two now are unified. There is a symbolic or a real time unity there. And that's important, that for us to understand as we live this human reality, that none of us can just decide for ourselves what will happen only for ourselves, because when we choose and when we decide and then we encounter other people, our decisions have an effect on other people. You see what I'm saying? That if I decide to be angry today, if I decide to be joyous today, if I decide to be rich today, if I decide to be poor, whatever my decisions are, right, it has an effect on everyone around me, whether I know them, whether I have some level of proximity to them or not. There's a book that's called Six Degrees of Separation, right? That you're connected to someone intimately from just 6 different people, like 6 people, and all of these things can introduce you to another level of opportunity, of opening, and all of that, right? So I think it's important as we have this community conversation that we don't distantiate ourselves. One of the things that I fuss about as a pastor at church, one of the things that I fuss about is people who complain that the church ain't a place of fellowship, or church ain't a place of this, church ain't a place of family. Well, it can't be if after I preach and give the benediction, you get in your car and go home. Sometimes you miss the benediction because you already gone, because you don't do people. Well, number one, if you don't do people, what do you do? Number one. Number two, you're missing a key facet of your development as a disciple, as a believer, as a person of faith, right? You're missing all of that. Ephesians 4 says that we got to all come into the unity of the faith, right? Into the knowledge of the Son of God, into a perfect man. That this koinonia is what the Greeks call it, this whole idea of fellowship, right? It is establishing community. It is establishing community, right? They dealt with the same things I just told you. You don't have community. They dealt with that same thing. Education, yes. Empowerment, economics, right? Those who had, right there in the book of Acts, those who had began to sell so that those who did not have could get some, so that we could have all things to come in, because everybody needs something of value. Everybody needs something of value. Everybody needs something that they can call their own and that they can be on par. So there's that alleviates jealousy. It alleviates envy. And I believe that the judgment, if we can go, for those of you who know your Bible, and I know you do, I think the judgment on Ananias and Sapphira was so strong there is because we're trying to build fellowship and community, and you decide to make a selfish choice to not be a help and not be of assistance. So you're hindering the building of this community that we're going to need. They had education there, right? That they were learning the apostles' doctrine. They had an education there, right? And then they had different levels of people that represented different levels of community right there among them that went out. They were not just preachers and teachers, but they were also people that were influenced in that Jewish community and in that Roman, that Roman system. They had people there, all in that. If you just read it, it's there. See, because the principles of community is right there before us. You can't be a part of a community if it's just my house. No, it's not just your house. Your house is on a street. And I'm sure that you've got neighbors. And so a neighbor is a part of the community, right? Your neighbor is a part of that whole nuclear family. They're part of, actually an extended part of your family. When I grew up, we had the folks on my street, on my road, all of us were family. All of us were, adults could discipline us, could educate us. They were all teachers and school teachers and did all that. All janitors, all of that. They were there, men and women in our community. Pastors, all of that. And it wasn't this is my house. This is just my house. No. Now, I know our parents used to tell us what goes on in our house stays in our house. I get that. Sensitive family business, I get all that. But I'm talking about how we take care of each other. That if I'm going to my friend's house, I'm going to eat over there because their parents going to offer me something to eat. Y'all hungry? They wouldn't say, well, y'all go home because my child got to eat. That's not what they did. If they were frying chicken, all of us got a wing. We are our gizzard back then, our neck, or our back. We might not have got a leg, but all of the kids in the neighborhood that was there who was running together, because that's how it was. If my mom was cooking, she was like, hey, y'all, have you eaten anything? All right, she'd put a couple of pieces of extra this or that. Do we still have that? I know I get it. It's a different time. It's a different time. I understand that. And I know a lot of that we won't probably ever get back to. But what I am saying is that there's got to be an elevated sense of connection, because we got a plan. Because all those people you was talking about, you see, Make America Great Again, MAGA, all that, they got a plan. They got a plan. Now, it's a dystopian plan. It's a disconnected plan. It's not a plan that's going to benefit them in the long run. It's not. It's really not. Because what they can't understand is, the man that you stand up for is the man that didn't have a problem with letting your family die from a disease. He was covering it up. Had no problem. But they see the institution of whiteness. They see grievance. They see a world that has left them behind in these rural places. They see city slickers. They see charlatans. Yeah, that's what they see, and they think the charlatan and the city slicker is going to protect them from charlatans and city slickers, and he's not. Oh my goodness, OMG, he's not. But they're formulating community around that. They're formulating community around that. And it's important for us to understand there is a methodology to all of that. The folks, they used to tell us there's strength in numbers. Yeah, and to some degree that is correct. That is correct. That, folks, I saw somebody, politicking about, I don't go to church because, how many of y'all still go to church? All right. No, cool. Then you get mad when nobody shows up for your baby shower. Nobody shows up for your mom or your dad's funeral. No, you see what I'm saying? Nobody shows up for your wedding because you've castigated community. That part, you see? And that is something that is so very important. All very important. And when you understand that, you will begin to look at each other from a different perspective. You begin to see, pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. We have to begin to draft a plan. Most times people who win lotteries and get big levels of money at one time, they don't keep it in a year. You know why? Because they got resources, but they don't have a plan. Right? People want provision, but they're not disciplined enough to live under the order of what? Vision, which is what provision is for. So if you don't have, your life is not connected to a plan, our community is not connected to a plan, if your families are not connected to a plan, then what? You see? Then what? If it's not connected to a plan. Don't just send your child to school every day without a plan. What's the plan? What is the plan? What our scores going to look like this year? What our grades going to look like this year? What's this all about this year? What are we doing? What's the plan? Well, I'm just going to meet my friends. That's not a plan. That's the recreation activities. That's recess. No, but what's the plan? What's your grades going to look like? How are we going to get that done? Here's the plan. We're going to study from here to here. We're going to keep this. You got to have that. Because if great provision is coming to you, if great resources are coming to you, before they get there, a plan is required. A plan must be, because if not, then you're going to allow all the folks that feel like because you have, they're supposed to have, and they're going to start knocking on your door. Give me some of your money. Give me some of your money. Give me some of your money. And if you don't have a plan, all you're going to have is your emotions. Talk. All you're going to have is your feelings. And you're going to feel bad for people who are going to squander the moment, who's going to squander the money. That's all you're going to have. Right? No. What's the plan? No. What is the vision? Where are we going? What are we doing with this moment that we're living in? Right? One of my greatest things about the whole thing is execution. It's going to be execution. I think that is important. That is important. Why? Because you're also thinking about who can you put together. You're trying to figure out how you can build community around the vision, community around the plan. Write the vision, make it plain, so that they that read it can read it as they run. So in other words, vision requires community as well. Dreams require community as well. Right? So whatever plan you're dealing with, right? If you don't have a plan when your little boy, your little girl go to school this year, then what did they do last year? What is your requirement? What is the order, the level of discipline? Huh? Right. What is that level of discipline? What is going on? That's going to be the important thing. And if we don't have a plan, then don't fuss about Make America Great Again. Don't fuss about it, because what is our plan? They got a Project 2025. Their thinkers came together. I remember when Tavis Smiley was having the State of the Black Union, that he would have that back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. And there was supposed to be a plan drafted for our communities. What is our plan? How are you going? Okay, you want to open a business. What's the plan? What is the plan? And the first plan is you got to write it down. You got to give articulation and give language to it. You got to give language to it. If you don't do that, then when resources come, you're gonna be paying bills with what you should be investing in your business. Every time somebody comes to your shop or whatever, your establishment, you're gonna see that person as my light bill getting paid, my gas bill getting paid, not the business's lights, but your home lights. You know why? Because you don't have a plan. You don't have a structure, right? Are you willing to invest those 5 years to create an economy as an entrepreneur? Because statistics show that it takes 5 years to even break even if you're going to start a business properly. You got to spend a lot of that money in marketing because people got to know, not just your family, but new customers, because you got to keep generating new customers so that you can have more resources to do more things to expand your business. And it takes at least 5 years to do that. The grace of God takes 3, but that's not an overnight thing. No, because there's going to be a lot of failure. There's going to be a lot of trial. There's going to be a lot of error. There's going to be a lot of things going on that you're going to need. Yes, you're going to need to make sure that, that this thing is successful. Right? And that means you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work of ordering and structuring yourself. You know, y'all, I'm next week I start my journey telling my business. I ain't talking about you, I'm talking about me. I'm starting my journey to get my PhD. Woo, yes. My PhD in public theology and community engagement. That's what my PhD from Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. So I start next week on this 3-year journey to get my Doctor of Philosophy in public theology. And the reason why I'm doing that, the reason, Culture Call, why I'm doing that is because I've been preaching since I've been 18 years old, right? So none of your business how old I am. But I've been preaching a while, right? And there seems to be a great distance now, currently. It wasn't always like that, between the church and a message of public theology. And our public theology has to be more than just we good, they bad, we righteous, they unrighteous, we believers, they unbelievers, we going to heaven and they going to hell. That's not a theology. First of all, that's not biblically accurate. Because as they say in the old Negro spiritual, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. And or everybody in church ain't going. So then there's that. That's the reality. Nonetheless, I'm doing that because there's got to be those who are academically, intelligently educated who know how, to stand in the pulpit and the public square. And those two messages can be interwoven together, but they are speaking to two different kinds of people. When I'm in the pulpit, I'm speaking not a different gospel, but a vantage point from a church perspective. But when I'm in the public, then I've got to learn how to make the message palatable. I've got to show the public how, yes, they too are included in the plan of God for human existence and human empowerment, human forwardness, right? And that's a skill because everybody doesn't have that. We're talking about those who are Martin Luther Kings. We're talking about those who have that kind of Jesse Jackson, those who can get up in the pulpit. See, folks don't even know that Al Sharpton is a preacher. But because of he decided that the way that he was going to lead his ministry was in public theology. Right. And so I think it is important. But one of the first things that they did when they accepted me into school is that my advisor hit me up and she gave me a plan. Okay, I want to be a part. I want to be I want to be a part of this PhD program. So I had to write a whole big long essay of why I wanted to be a PhD, one day candidate, right? And then she sent me acceptance letter, but with that acceptance letter, she sent me a course outline, what all it was going to take for me to accomplish my dream and vision, and how I'm going to do it, what I need to take this semester, or what I need X, Y, Z, A, B, C. All these things. What classes to register for, how many hours I need to take, this X, Y, Z. Now, I got to take my life and build it around that plan as well, right? I got to learn that, a lot of my free time, whatever that is not really free time anymore. because I've got to have that plan working for me if I am what? Going to accomplish my goal of being what? A doctor of philosophy in public theology. What is the plan? Now, I hear you, because there are some of you who don't like plans, who don't mind plans, but hate involving other people in the plan, because you can't really determine the level of faithfulness and work ethic of people who are on your team. I totally understand. Trust me and believe, I understand that. As a person, as a pastor, I understand that. As a student, all of those things. Every time the teacher said group project, I was like, oh my God. Because in my mind, I work so much better by myself. And, I took a course in group dynamics and how groups are formulated. There are always going to be people on that team that do more than others. So, it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. And that sacrifice too, yes, is quantifiable. It's not, well, I sacrifice. No. A sacrifice is not you give me what's left. A sacrifice is you give me your best on your level. Right? And so that I get it. That becomes difficult when you're dealing with community and you're dealing with groups and dynamics and all that, because we got to work through personalities. We got to find strengths. We got, you got to be open to sharing, what responsibilities lie in one place and or the other. I get it all. We are all subject to that. None of us get out of that. But, like Bill Withers says in the song, and we all know it, we all need somebody to what? Lean on. That's the part of the plan that we've got to come back to. We've got to learn how to be able, and I understand Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. But God also gives us, out of the extension of his heart, people that we can trust and depend that will help us. And we need to learn how to trust and lean on God as we allow them to be a part of what God has given us to do, so that we can, yes, be successful. Because success, too, is a social construct. Listen. I got to take a break right here. I need y'all to stay right here on the Culture Call, because we talking some good. What is our plan? What do we intend to do? It's going to get better, but we're going to give each other some kind of topics and some kind of, ingredients so we can make it happen. Because I believe this is high time for us to formulate a plan. Keep it right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3 FM. We'll be right back after this.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, your boy, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. We are having a wonderful conversation. Have been all day. What's the plan? What's the plan to build our community? In spite of all the politics and the elections and all that, man, listen, sometimes you just got to walk away from that stuff. Do you hear me? Sometimes you just got to walk away. You gotta just say, you know what, today I'm not looking at that. I'm not reading it, because it will depress you if you allow it to. And one of the things that, again, we have to make sure that we are doing is fortifying, erecting, foundating a particular plan, a chart, a chart of course forward, right? We have to learn how to take agency and ownership of our own trajectory, right? The way that we are going in our communities, right? And it's important because at the end of the day, and the beginning and all throughout the middle, but definitely at the end of the day, we have to become responsible for ourselves again. Yeah, we've got to become responsible for ourselves again. That we cannot allow ourselves to be fixated on the delusions of proximity and access, that we forget that at the end of the day, you know, when it's all said and done, when this dust settles and the smoke clears, that, you know, there is a perspective of us being on the end of the totem pole, at the bottom. And we will remain there if we do not have a plan. If we don't have a plan, if we don't come together and have critical and key conversations, that I think is very important. Again, around the issues of economics, because again, you got to have money. You got to have businesses. You got to have credit unions. The way that my mother got our house when we were growing up is that she was a part of a credit union that that was started by a lot of black people. A credit union. She was able to finance the house that way. When we moved from the poor neighborhood, that's the best I can say it, to a better neighborhood, she got that from the credit union. A co-op credit union. Sure did. And we can do that again in our community. We can. And, it has to be a connection and amalgamation between politicians, between educators, between the church, the religious community, that we cannot make it just, for Christians and all that. No. Even though I know we are Christians, but there are people who are not believers in our community, or don't believe like we believe. Should they not be able to afford anything or have financial assistance, economic assistance, because they don't believe how we believe? Just throwing the idea out there. I think it's important for us to think about that. Yeah. Then our educational system. Here's the deal. Are we just rearing our children to become athletes and, how should I say? Yeah, just people who are in music? Or are we saying like other cultures do, yeah, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need engineers. Yeah, we need those who major in political science. We need those who will literally go to seminary, right? So that we can have an educated populace, even in theology, that we are creating a holistic community whereby we're able to help our children understand how to go in the way that God has directed them, how to be empowered in that agency, give them the proper platforms to do that, to really paint a picture of who they need to be in this world and for our communities. Other communities do it, right? That we don't just slap a football in their hand or our bat in their hand and say, run. No, we literally teach them that education is the future. My dad used to tell us when I was a freshman in high school, he used to say, hey, make sure that you build relationships with your teachers and the administrators, because those are the people who are going to write letters for you to get in college. Yeah. Make sure you treat your not just Mr. Geis and Miss Nelson, because that's the band director and the choir teacher, well, but make sure you teach that science teacher well. Make sure you teach your business teacher well, your typing teacher well, Make sure you do it to the whole staff, the principal, you're respectful to everybody, so that when you ask them for letters of recommendations to get into certain schools, it won't be difficult for you to do that. They're like, oh, hey, it'll be a joy for them. You feel me? And that's important. Very, very important. Are we teaching our children those skills? And I'm as an educator, as a former teacher, I believe that this country really, really needs to pay teachers better. Really, because they deal with a lot. And a lot of good teachers are either quitting or they're leaving the classroom for administration because they don't want to deal with the children. And what is that saying? What is that really saying, y'all? That they don't want to deal with the kids. They don't want to deal with the kids. That's saying a lot. And as I said before, early in the broadcast, not only do students deserve good teachers, But teachers also what? Deserve good students. And that can only happen as, they're released from good homes who have good parents. And whether it's a two-parent or a single-parent home, it doesn't matter. No. You can tell your child what is expected of them. We're so busy trying to give our children things that we didn't have that we're not giving them what we did have. And if you were not a high achiever in school, then you should want more for your children. Let me say this again. If you were a CD struggling student when you were in school, elementary all the way through high school, then as a parent, you should want more. Talking here, L, that's what I'm going to do. You should want more for your child, right? You should say, be better than me. If your parents were always coming up to the school for you because of behavior problems, yeah. Now that you're older and mature, you should say to yourself, that's who I was, but my child won't be that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and send them. Mind your teacher. That's what they used to say. Mind your teacher. Behave. You know who you are. Don't make me come up to that school because you don't know how to act. That was the word. Not if your teacher messed with you, tell me because I'm coming up to school. Now you cutting the fool on all the teachers and you disrespecting the teachers, cussing the teacher out. How in the world are the students supposed to respect the teacher and learn when they know that I don't have to respect the teacher because my daddy and my mama don't respect the teacher? How does that work? How does that work? Culture call. It doesn't. It does not work at all. So we have to start thinking. We have to start thinking and begin to rear them and say, hey, this is what it is. And pay close attention. Be as connected to teachers. If you can't be there, email. Here's my number. Text. I'm going to text you because I can't get here during meetings because I got to work. I got to do X, Y, Z. But I'm going to text you and ask you about my child every now and then. And I need you to tell me the truth. I need you to tell me the truth. They have portals now. You don't even have to worry about, so much the child telling you what's in homework. They have computerized systems now where the parent can log in to the child's system and find out what the child's homework is, what their grades are, what they're currently behind in. Now, they didn't have that in our day. We had to tell our parents. Or better yet, the way that they did us, we had to get the homework signed. Y'all remember that? I'm telling myself, I'm dating myself so badly. Yeah, that's what we had to do. That's what we had to do. And so that's important. So, I think once we get there and we begin to understand what our responsibilities are as parents, then we'll send good children to good teachers. Now, those of you who are in administration, who are listening to me today, make sure the teachers are good. Let me try this again. Make sure the teachers are of quality, not simply because they passed a praxis, not simply because they passed some exam or some level of academic adjudication, not because they got a degree, bachelor's or master's. No, but because they love teaching and they love the children and they want to see the children be better. That's who gets the job. That's who gets the job. That's who's going to stay in the classroom. That's who's going to formulate places and, to make sure that help. That's who's going to stay after school to help our children who are falling behind. See, I'm laying out a plan. Yeah? Education plan that we have to all be a part of that because, again, we want a community. And thirdly, empowerment. Who are our politicians? If you're paying attention to the world, there is a tremendous transition of politics, of politicians, of leadership, basically, that are transitioning into death, into retirement. There are a lot of people who were stalwarts in certain areas that are stepping down now. And who are their replacements? Who are their replacements? Who are we going to put in their place? Who's going to represent us here? Who's going to sit on the board now? Who's going to be a part of city government now? Right? Who's going to get the job done for the community now? You know? They're getting older. And there's an adjudication on age in this country going on right now. There's ageism. You know, a lot of it is ageism. But there is a time when, you know, biblically, you need to be sat down and be just one to be a coach and offer wisdom. You don't necessarily need to be in the fight. That's why, you know, as bad as, you know, I felt when it happened, I'm not mad at President Joe Biden. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at the aged pastor who is not as spry and as articulate as he used to be, you know, retiring. Now, if it's not you, I ain't talking about you, but there are some that need to retire to offer classes and coaching, mentorship to younger preachers to navigate. So we got to have all of that going on in our community. We've got to begin to mantle and anoint who is next, because next is on the way. And when we get those three right, our economy, our education, and our empowerment, black community, culture call, we're going to be cooking with grease over a hot fire. And we will be unstoppable in this country. No matter who is the leader, we're going to be a force to be working with. Listen, got to take a break. I see the runway. We got to land this plane. Listen, but keep it right here. There's much more to come on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Keep it right here.
This is the world premiere.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show. I'm telling you, we've got to have a plan, folks. Culture Call. We've got to have a plan. Irregardless of who wins this election, we have to have a plan for our community. And so we got to start thinking about that. Yeah, I hope we piqued your interest today and got you to think about some things. And yeah, we got to just talk about it. Yeah. Listen, gotta go. At the end of every phone call, my mama would say, I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, and I love you a hug around the neck. This has been your boy, Bishop L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call, Praise 93.3 FM 790 WTSK. And I am glad, to be on with you today. Love somebody intentionally. Hold them close. You just never know. They could be here today and gone tomorrow. That's just facts. Not to try to scare you, but be very intentional about how you let people know how much you care about them. Follow peace with all men. Make sure you do something kind for someone. And we will catch you back here on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Don't miss it. I need you right here. Until then, God bless you and peace be unto you.